What is up, fellas? Hopefully all is well. This is the A&M Dynasty with this team. Team's undefeated, just beat Oklahoma, facing now a Texas team with Colt McCoy. We've started off a lot of these games really slow. Still getting wins though, but you just don't know if that holds up well anyways. It's like if you're going to stay undefeated, what's the championships game is going to be like? What is it going to be like against a Texas team this week? What's it going to be like in the national championship, and you're most likely facing a team such as like Ohio State at this point, maybe a Florida State, who knows? But just to think about it, it's just something that you cannot hold up. We're getting a great amount of recruits, so solid dudes on the defense, but still, how can that hold up really? So heading into this game against Texas, we're undefeated. I think we may be the number one team in the country, maybe number two, but we will be in Austin, and God knows that's going to be crazy. Facing this team, we have a very solid offense. Our defense is very good overall as well, but more so this offense is very strong with Gerard Johnson and company. But as we pretty much break it down, this is going to be a long video. It's a long video because I can't help for it to be a long video. This is going to be one of the most amazing games I've ever played of NCAA football. Not going to bury the lead on whatever happens in this one, but a lot of shit happens in this one. And while this amazing gameplay is going to be good talking over, let's talk a little bit of football for what the NFL had for us in week 4. I'm recording this on Monday. It's probably not going to be ready until after the Monday Night Football game, so I'll just give my projection of that. Of course, number one player in the country, Mr. Mike Goodson, is still in the seat to win the Heisman in the running back position, but Jaguars end up giving up a 14-point lead. I think at the start of the second half it was 14-0. They get outscored 24-7 to end the game. Terrible way of pretty much taking advantage of an opportunity to at least just get a win. They can still be the number one pick, it seems like, with all these other teams, and have a loss. But taking a look at it, just Bengals end up getting a win. They go to 3-1. Jaguars still winless, so a lot to build up about that one. And then apparently Urban Meyer likes to grind up on young women at the club, even though it looked like he's just one more really good groove on his dick away from having another heart attack. But I digress. Looking at the other games, Tennessee Titans lose to the New York Jets after what you see ends up being a pretty solid couple of catches by Corey Davis. I'm not going to say a overall solid badass game. It was a great pass from Zach Wilson from 53 yards to Mr. Corey Davis against his old team. And then, Derrick Henry has a solid game overall. They're pretty much pinned up for him to do that, having both A.J. Brown and Julio Jones out in the game. No help from Fursker or anything targeted towards him. When it came to the passing game, the tight end to step up. Not much going for them in the passing game overall. No one really stepped up to help out with that. And because of it, it just looked very boring. 9-0 to start off the game, which meant that they ate up 3 opportunities just then to score 4 more points potentially on each drive. And apparently it seems that, one of those drives could have turned in to the 4 points they needed to win by 1 point, since they lost by 3 to the New York Jets. So New York Jets go to 1-3, getting their first win for Zach Wilson in his career. And then 2-2 Titans. Thank God they're in that division. But overall, just not looking all too strong. Panthers and Cowboys. This game, it just looked again like it's not really, it's not like the Panthers looked as bad as the Eagles did when the Eagles faced the Cowboys. The game was just going along that way, just in general, with this. Just like the score was with the Eagles game, it was kind of lopsided. 33-14, but again, this Panthers team, they were looking terrible. I think that Cowboys defense was just looking really strong. And no Christian McCaffrey. It's going to limit you anyways. But still, DJ Moore with a very good game. Robbie Anderson, still need to find a way for him to break defenses. But again, I just kind of surprises me that you're not getting a couple successful passes down the field for Mr. Robbie Anderson, considering the amount of traffic that's going in the, check down to middle intermediate part of the passing game for this team with DJ Moore running out of the slot and moving up and down the field, just opening up lanes and whatnot. So maybe we'll see a little bit more. But hey, they're 3-1. It was 33-14 at some points. So this game really wasn't as close as it ended up being, with a couple touchdowns at the end of the game. I think 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns by Sam Darnold. Solid game again by Zeke, 100 yards on the ground, including a rushing touchdown. Not that many passing catches out of the backfield for Mr. Zeke. But hey, both teams 3-1. I'd have to say the Cowboys are feeling good. Pretty much in their division. I know the Panthers have the likes of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right there. They're both at 3-1. Should be interesting to see how that team pans out against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as they'll face off 2 times later on this season. Chiefs end up winning 42-30 against the Eagles. Chiefs defense is looking quite porous. Devontae Smith, a very solid game for himself. No receiving touchdowns in this one for him, but still though, 100-something yards, 5 or 6 catches. Nicely done. Huge fucking hit on Mike Goodson right there. Jesus. And this is what I mean by slow starts, fellas. That's what I mean by slow starts. But Tyreek Hill ends up having the game that everybody's been waiting for. It proved so. 3 touchdowns, 11 receptions, almost 200 yards, I believe. So it was pretty much similar to what his game was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season, in which, he did this over a course of game, not over the course of 1 quarter. And there you go. Nice interception right there by free safety number 26. But again, Chiefs are just too good for this Eagles team. And it proved so. Just couldn't catch up whatsoever, even though the Chiefs defense is just not looking very stellar at all whatsoever. Giants end up getting their first win, and it happens in overtime against the New Orleans Saints. Very weird game, but again, the Saints very limited on offense. I know Alvin Kamara had over 110, 115, maybe 120 rushing yards. No receptions, though, in this game for Mr. Kamara. But no touchdowns for him either. And you saw a couple big catches by Callaway. Maybe they need to just stretch it down the field a little bit more. I don't know the statistics of how far the depth of these targets are to these wide receivers and whatnot. But still, it's Jesus Christ, Gerard. But still, I mean, Giants finally get the win after they've been lead. So they've led in every single game now. And, or they may have just led. I think they may have just led. No, they led. I think they were up 21-18, or that it was the Saints. But this may have been the game that they didn't lead until the very end. And ironically enough, they don't end up losing the game themselves. So interesting on that standpoint. Saquon has a decent game. I think Evan Ingram didn't have as good of a game as a lot of people were thinking. But overall, beautiful move right there for the touchdown, as we're just getting fucking dick slapped. But the Giants get themselves a nice solid win, I'd have to say. I don't think the Saints are back in the Dome or anytime soon. But this Giants team, maybe it builds a little bit of momentum for them when they face, Jesus Christ, I can't get a fucking break in this game. Get a huge catch by Mr. Smith, the JUCO recruit, and that shit happens. But a nice win for the Giants after what has been really a emotional roller coaster for this team to start off the season when they've been leading in 3 games and they lose every single one of them, especially against the likes of a Washington team that is just, those are very important games, especially how close this division is besides the Cowboys, it seems. But whatever, nice win for the Giants. Saints looking very mediocre at best. 14-7 is the conclusion to the Cleveland Browns and Vikings game. I was pretty damn surprised that they had a 51-52 total before kickoff. I think it was like 53 or something like that. I thought that was a huge mistake by Vegas, and I think a decent amount of smart people jumped on the under for that game, because you're basically looking at 2 teams that are very slow in pace. I mean, have you ever watched like a drive by the Cleveland Browns? It's not very electrifying. It's very slow. I know they have a very excellent play caller in Stefanski, but still, you're looking at a team that I mean, what's the deal, right? So Nick Chubb still gets 100 yards, but it looks like the dude's got to get like 25 touches in order to do so. He's got one of the best offensive lines in all of football. He had one of the best matchups in all of football against this team, and it's not like they were extremely down throughout this whole game. I mean, as you can tell, there's no team was down by more than maybe a field goal and a possession tops. 14-7 though, they get the win. Their defense is looking very, very good, but I think Baker Mayfield is trash. Just, I don't know, man. It's just not much showing for this dude. You're seeing all these quarterbacks that I feel like you could fill into that team and it would change drastically. And it'd probably help Nick Chubb, let's be honest, right? That offensive line's really good. They can bully you around with those two running backs, with him and Hunt. But I'm still looking at this like, dude, like you need a better quarterback or else how is this team going to really take advantage of having one of the better rushing running backs in the country, in the league? Obviously the best rated offensive line with like, what, 2 of the top 5 Pro Football Focuses. Best rated offensive lineman. Just no one's feeling threatened by them at all. No one's feeling threatened by them at all. And they're still 3-1. Should be 4-0 since facing the Chiefs. But they did not get the win in that game. Vikings now fall to 1-3, which is very sad considering the Vikings have been pretty much competitive in every single game. I think it's like low-key the Vikings kind of seem like the Giants, but people focus on the Giants more because it's New York. It's kind of like what I was saying with the Kyle Shanahan thing and people giving Cliff Kingsbury shit. You know, bro, Cliff Kingsbury is proof of this and stuff and his bias and his privilege of that. We already talked about that, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit later. You got the Lions, the Bears. Lions look like absolute doo-doo to start off this game. Bears defense was holding them up. I know they scored 2 more touchdowns at the end, but when you're looking at it, though, 14 points they end up scoring to 24. This game was not that close. Another one of those games. The game is not that close. Bears start off pretty much 14-0 on what could have been a very, very historic day for David Montgomery, for himself and his career. But he ends up getting injured, I'm pretty sure, midway through the third quarter. But, you know, he already had 140 total yards, including 2 rushing touchdowns. Lions don't look good. They could be the first overall pick, and that'll be interesting what they try to do with that. Jordan Shipley with the catch right there. So this A&M team just getting slapped. But whatever. There's more game left. Texans against Bills. Bad weather start off this game, and funny thing is, people are like, oh man, is the weather so bad that, like, you know, could the spread just not be as big? Could they not, you know, meet their spread and stuff like that, implied spread for the game? Man, that's like really making me nervous, and you're like, dude, it's still the Bills playing the fucking Texans. I don't care. This team with Josh Allen could have Josh Allen run for like, you know, 70 yards throughout the game with it, wet weather and whatnot. It doesn't matter. And this defense is looking very good. I think the Bills look like the best team in all of football. I know the Rams have a very good defense. The Buccaneers have a very, very solid offense, like a great offense. But even then, it just seems like the Bills are one of these teams that can easily keep up with you with the points. They have one of the best wide receivers in football. Obviously, one of the most electrifying quarterbacks and playmakers in all of football in Josh Allen. Their offensive line is all right, but they do have a couple nice complementary pieces in Cole Beasley and Mr. Emmanuel Sanders to help out with that passing attack. And this defense has been very, very solid to start off the season. I mean, very, very solid and good. And it's led to this team. They're 3-1. They may have lost to the Steelers. That's because their offense wasn't clicking all too well. But it is what it is. This team looks like the best team in all of football right now. They're 3-1. Coming off of this 40-0 win at home. It was what you should expect if the weather was nice. And maybe the weather being bad led to a shootout or a shutout for the likes of this Texans team getting just absolutely ball stomped in this game. Colts at Dolphins. Colts end up pulling this one out. A lot of people were choosing the Dolphins to maybe get this win and stuff, but hey, it's this Dolphins team, man. I know the defense has been pretty good, but overall, when you look at it, I think the Colts are a better team overall. Not only that, I think the Colts are built better to deal with bad quarterback play, and unfortunately, you saw this season not as many lucky things as you see the season before, in which the Dolphins just can't keep up. The luck is not on their side for a decent amount of this stuff, and hey, there you go. It's going to lead to your team not playing well, even against a winless Colts team in which, hey, Jonathan Taylor finally gets 100 yards on the ground, gets a touchdown in that game. I was thinking that was a sneaky good game for him, but it wasn't like, huge slate-breaking type game, which is unfortunate. But hey, we could get that against the Jaguars and shit like that. So we'll have to see for Jonathan Taylor and them. But they finally get their first win of the season after starting off 0-3 for the first time in 10 years. Shows you how solid and consistent that organization has been. And both teams are now 1-3. And I would much rather be a 1-3 Colts team than a 1-3 Dolphins team when you're in those divisions, respectfully. Washington football team ends up sneaking out a win against a Falcons team in which apparently, hey, everybody, we're going to put Mike Davis at running back, pay him money to be our running back, and then we're going to have fucking Cordell Patterson be our top receiver on this team when we have Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley. And he's just going to be playing running back while doing it. Isn't that just amazing? 3 fucking touchdowns. Who would have thunk that? That's just a stupid ass shit. Why is it's all to him. Impressive game, but fucking Christ, man. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? Jesus. It was almost 100 yards, too, out of the backfield for his receiving. So that's that. Beautiful pass right there to wide receiver number 88, going for 2. Fellas, this game ain't over yet. We still got 11 more minutes in this game. All right, mind you, could we be showing a little bit of stuff after the game too? Sure. Could this end up being Texas's? Of course. They're fucking dick slapping us. I don't care how good we are on offense right now. That's what's going on. But Tyler Heineke ends up pushing through a couple passing touchdowns to Mr. Scary Terry, who is showing to be one of the most underrated players in all of football. People are like, oh yeah, the thing is this guy, he's not really like any of those, names. Yeah, exactly. He's not one of those names, so he's underrated, you fuck. Jesus, I hate when these dudes just fucking sit there and they're like, yeah, man, I know nothing more about football than just using my eyes like you do when you sit at home on the couch, but yet I'm some fucking expert that gets to vote. As I'm a sports journalist and I get to vote on whether or not this guy who is actually athletic and good at his sport makes the Hall of Fame. Fuck you, bitch. No one gives a shit about you. No one does. You are just entertainment. Or else, why would we just specifically bring you on a television show to talk about this? We already know half of y'all's opinions. However mostly invalid they are. You're just entertainment. That's all it is. So stop talking shit on Scary Terry. Stop talking shit on Cliff Kingsbury and company when you got guys that are just very much the same as them in the league. You're just trying to create some fucking drama, and that's all you do. Just a bunch of theater kids that happen to be into fucking sports journalism. Fucking turds. Tired of it. Tired of it, fellas. Huge interception right here by cornerback number 18. Seahawks end up pulling out a win in which they looked absolutely dog shit against the 49ers. Decent game by DK Metcalf, but we're not really seeing that huge game by DK Metcalf yet. You know how Tyler Lockett started off the year with 2 straight weeks of 150 yards on nearly 10 catches, a couple touchdowns. Maybe he had 3 in one game, I don't know. But DK Metcalf has not had that game yet, and man, this guy is so good. And also too, people talk about certain players like Mike Evans. You don't think of his speed, but last night he was making a couple fucking moves on dudes that you're like, that's just not fair when you're 6'5" and 230, 240 pounds and you're moving around like that. And that's especially the case with DK Metcalf. Dude was out juking dudes on this 49ers team, especially solid fucking nickelbacks and shit. And we all know you want to fucking trash on a fucking nickelback in this world. It's kind of fucking routine. and DK Metcalf was showing off those moves. Not a good game by Chris Carson and company. Trey Lance looked all right, but Deebo Samuel, really the best player on this team. George Kittle, drafted in a lot of leagues in the 3rd round at the latest for a lot. Or, no, sorry, the 4th round for the latest a lot. Dude's not doing much of anything worth a damn right now. And, again, he has to rely on his quarterback play, and that's just unfortunately the case right now. It is what it is. But Deebo Samuel is just looking like an absolute stud on this Niners team, getting so much volume going his way, and it's paying off at the moment. It looks sick. He's doing extremely well. Speaking of sick, what a passing play right there to Mr. Smith, and we got ourselves a ball game, fellas. 47-50 at this point. Nice sack. But Seahawks get the win. Garoppolo gets injured. I don't think Trey Lance looked all too terrible at this point. I just think overall, when you kind of think about it, Russell Wilson's that good, and Pete Carroll's probably a better coach than Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, we talked about fucking Cliff Kingsbury and shit like that. People talking shit on him. But people are like, oh, 49ers have this, Super Bowl roster, blah, 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 blah. You know who they didn't say had a Super Bowl roster? The apparently 4-0 Cardinals team. It shows you how important fucking quarterback is, folks. 4-0 Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury and company against this Rams team scored 37 points. It wasn't like the, fucking Buccaneers where they score like 2 touchdowns, pass for 170 yards in junk time in the 4th quarter and stuff like that. Nope. Cardinals had 2 touchdowns in pretty much the first 2 drives of the game. Kyler Murray was scrambling around, just making these sick-ass plays on 3rd down and long and getting shit done for these teams. And really, Cliff Kingsbury is showing people that, listen here, bitch, y'all still don't know anything. Y'all can talk shit, bring race into it. It doesn't fucking matter. Cliff Kingsbury, to me, is underappreciated. I'm going to say it again. I think Kyle Shanahan is now becoming the fucking oh, wait, yeah, it turns out, we're just overhyping Kyle Shanahan and all of his teams and stuff like that. Because this Cardinals team is getting shit done. They made the pieces to get these players. Don't get me wrong, San Fran's got some decent players. And Kyle Shanahan had the likes of a Julio Jones all those years with Matt Ryan and company. He also had Tony Gonzalez for a little bit on his early offenses and stuff with Atlanta. Big interception right here by free safety number 26. Beautiful. But 37-20 against what people were saying was just now the official favorite to win the Super Bowl, this Rams team. That defense looked pretty good against them. Didn't seem all too well about what was going down for Cooper Kupp compared to usual. A couple nice plays to Cooper Kupp and company, but Robert Woods isn't getting much action. Tyler Higbee's getting a couple nice throws, but overall, come on. This Cardinals team needs to get more love, and if it comes after this game, so fucking be it. But still, though, fellas, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. That should have been caught right there for the game. Fucking wide receiver number 82. And that becomes an important, integral part of this one. Beautiful pass out. Another drop touchdown pass. I don't care if he had 2 dudes. Basically by himself on the tackle and whatever. But 3-1 now is this Packers team. Beat the Steelers. Towards the end of the half, it looked very interesting because it was a blocked field goal for a touchdown return. Steelers were going to take it down and end up actually taking the lead, 17-14 towards the end of the half. Ended up becoming 17-10, in which it was 14-10 before the kick. And the Packers were actually going to be down after a very momentum-swinging play. Deontay Johnson, a man that another underappreciated type in this league. Jesus Christ, fucking touchdown return. I told you this game was fucking insane. But 27-17, you end up seeing a very good game at Deontay Johnson. Still not good enough as the Steelers team is just so limited to be. I know Najee Harris had a decent game. He's not going to get 19 targets because a lot of Deontay Johnson is kind of like a DJ Moore to this team. He's going to get a decent amount of targets in the short game in order to open up and use the play call to develop the play itself instead of getting, air yards to lead to a first down. It'd be about 2-yard pass, and it sets up for him to have 8 yards after the catch. But Packers brewed to 3-1. There you go. And then now you have the Ravens team 23-7. in Denver. That was fun to watch when you started to see Lamar and them open up that Denver defense. When Marquise Brown makes that absolutely sick catch. And I think, too, it's very important because Mark Andrews has a slow start to the year for this Baltimore offense, is that once you saw him get a couple of these catches in the middle of the field and stuff like that, and a couple of them were on the deep side and stuff. Jesus Christ. What a terrible pass by Colt McCoy, you bitch. But 23-7, once you started to see a little bit of the passing down the field, Latavius Murray's taking over as running back, and he looks pretty spry, I'd have to say. Looks pretty spry. Got a nice rushing touchdown, looked pretty quick and fast when he was cutting the corner to run up the field right behind his blockers, because Baltimore has amazing blocking in their run game. But you started to see, and look at this mistake right here, fellas. You come back from that kind of deficit, and you have that kind of mistake, and that shit happens. But Ravens, once you saw Mark Andrews open things up for long passes to Marquise Brown, stops the play right here. There you go. 19 seconds, going to be a no-huddle offense now. And we're just going to take a dive in right here. Going to be stopped. It's going to be a sack on the play. There's no timeouts by Texas. Remember, we got 7 seconds left. 5, 4. They're going to get themselves a spiked ball, or maybe not. Dumbass calls motion, fellas, and we just came back from one of the biggest deficits I've ever seen. A&M teams making their way undefeated still after this win. What a historic game. It's fucking nuts. Big historic games. Tom Brady didn't look all too great in his return, but fortunately enough, they're facing a limited Patriots team and how that offense is made. I made some nice little money on the lineups last night in the Showdown slate game. And, yeah. That's just what happens when people think that Tom Brady's Tom Brady's just going to come in town and just slam on this fucking Patriots team, dude. Because, it's such, sports is always just such fucking dramatics, dude. And it's just going to be so cool to see Tom Brady come in and just shit on this team, blah, blah. Whatever. Well, we ended up seeing a very close game, so suck my balls. That's what happens. You little bitch. Tom Brady didn't have all too great of a game. Speaking of not all too great, outscore him 29-6 in the second half. What a comeback, fellas. I'm happy for this team heading in to the Big 12 championship against Kansas State. Later.